Greetings, I'm the one called Horror Show, and welcome to VG Therapy, the channel where I talk about games. Now, I've been wanting to do Jet Set Radio for a hot minute, because I fell in love with its style back in 2012, the first time I ever played it, and since doing these reviews, I've just been wanting to do a video on it. Because, hey, it gives me an opportunity to gush about a game that I really like, and also gives me an opportunity to play through the game again. And also gives me an opportunity to get around to beating Jet Set Radio Future, which I have never done until now. And also just a quick note, I am waving around a Dreamcast copy, but the version I'll be playing is the HD version released on Xbox One, because that's just a lot easier for me to record from. And also, I've experienced a lot of bad controllers, and the Dreamcast controller, it's not the worst, it's just not the best.
The game initially launched on the Dreamcast worldwide back in the year 2000 to massive critical acclaim, with common praises being the visuals and the soundtrack. As cel shading wasn't well known until Jet Set Radio, it stood out by looking like playable animation, which mixed well with its graffiti art styling, to which a number of graffiti artists assisted with and even provided their artworks to be used in-game as tags you can spray, which mixed with the soundtrack composed largely by Hideki Naganuma, with a number of other artists helping out doing other songs, resulted in a very, for the time, modern urban OST, and obviously very much inspired by the pop culture of the time.
All of which makes this a game that could not have been made at any other time, and is very dated, all the while staying timeless due to how intentionally of the era it is. Because the rollerblades, the hip-hop, electronica, rock, and pop music, and the graffiti make this a game that feels like it would be a game that was made later on trying to reference or emulate this kind of style, but it has that little bit of extra soul or just authenticity to it due to actually being from the era. And that's just the visuals and music. The gameplay is no slouch either.
As during the game you play as the GGs, a gang of graffiti artists who skate around spraying their tag wherever they can, and what your tag looks like is up to you. There is a large selection of tags to choose from, some of which are made by professionals. However, you can make your own tags using their creator tag system. It is a little basic, and since I am no artist, I didn't really play around with it too much and just use the pre-made stuff. And since the pre-made stuff is a lot better than what I would think you could do with their tools, most people would probably just go with the pre-made tags. And what is it that you do with these tags?
Spray them around, what else would you do?
As each level has a number of places where you need a tag, with a few small ones, a handful of medium ones, and a couple of large ones. The three sizes change what you need to do to finish them. The small ones, you just need to hit the left trigger to put them up. You don't even need to stop. But the medium and large ones require you to stop and do half circle and full circle motions, with the large ones requiring a larger number of motions.
The difficulty in doing this comes in when you factor in two other aspects of this game.
The first being that you need to pick up the spray cans strewn across the level to tag with. And also, once you do enough tags, the cops will come in and start hassling you, which can interrupt spraying tags, so you either want to kite them away from where you are, do the big ones first, or just brute force your way through. And this leads to you trying to become familiar with the levels so you can figure out what the optimal path is and exploring the levels for easy ways to get around. As there are a number of shortcuts and optional paths, some of which hold unlockable tags. And some of these tags make you think about what you can actually do to get them, because skating in this game is fairly simple. You jump onto a rail to grind, jump onto a wall to wall ride, and when you jump off or you just have enough air, then you automatically do a trick. No extra button presses or inputs required.
Tony Hawk's, this is not.
But chaining moves together is still a lot of fun. Like while I didn't end up getting the tag, this part where I figured that to unlock the tag you needed to grind into, wall ride into, grind, then either jump and grab the tag or wall ride again to get it was fun.
As I said, I wasn't able to get the damn thing, but hey, doing the combo was a lot of fun.
Which is probably why as you get through the game you start to unlock bonus stages, which consist of either a race, spray all the tags in a level, or get a high score. And the cool thing about the last two are that they unlock extra parts of the level that might not have been accessible before, which mainly exist so they can bridge levels together, which results in you having an even bigger area to play around in and gives you a good place to try out the other characters. Because even though Beat is the poster boy, you have a large assortment of characters to play as. There are 10 characters that unlock naturally throughout the story, with another 5 needing extra requirements. And all characters have 3 stats: power, technique, and graffiti. Power is your health, technique is how many points you get from doing tricks, and graffiti is how many points you get from doing graffiti. I initially thought that the graffiti was how many cans you can hold, but no, it's just points. Which means that I don't actually know how many spray cans each character can hold.
And while I am running out of things to say, that's not a detriment. That's actually a positive, because this game is simple and sweet. It's not bloated, doesn't do more than it needs to. It knows what it wants to do, knows what it needs to do, and does it well, and does it in a way that's a lot of fun. And makes me excited to see what the sequel has in store for me, as it came out 2 years later on stronger hardware, which we'll be now looking at. That's right, this is a Jet Set Radio double feature, as you probably guessed from the title. And as I said, yeah, this game, very excited for it, because it's a sequel, reboot, I don't know. Dreamcast got a bit wacky when it was taking every game of note from the Dreamcast and putting it onto other systems. Games like the Sonic Adventure series, they just got enhanced ports to the GameCube. This got a sequel/reboot. Shenmue got Shenmue 2 just ported straight over, with a DVD explaining what happened in the first game. And there are a bunch more examples of what happened with other games, but I'll leave that to when I cover them, if I ever cover them.
As I say, the game came out in 2002 on the Xbox, with it later becoming a game playable on the 360 through its backwards compatibility feature. And since I didn't know about this, I played the entire game on my Xbox and had to play it again on the 360 for higher quality footage. And I noticed that when played on the 360 there were a few graphical glitches, mainly on menus and such, but there was also some slowdown which I did not notice on the original, which is kind of surprising.
But as far as the Xbox version goes, it got nothing but critical acclaim. And unfortunately, the sales weren't able to match that. Which, considering that I couldn't find anything about the Dreamcast version doing poorly, that either says a lot about this Xbox version, or a lot about the Dreamcast.
The team's goal going into development was to take the core concept and feel of the original and start from scratch to create something fresh with the series, and not really taking much from what people liked about the original so that they wouldn't be restricted in any way. With the only thing they say they did explicitly take from fan feedback was the fact that Americans seem to like Jet Set Radio more so than Japan. So at a time when, as far as the Dreamcast goes, the writing was on the wall, they decided to develop for the Xbox as they felt that was a more popular choice amongst gamers in the US.
But as far as everything else goes, it's all new and different.
And the main thing you'll notice that is different is everyone's design. Every character from the first game got a new look, to which I will say some are hit or miss, which kinda goes for most of this game.
Like, the soundtrack is still super solid, and this time around they included a few licensed tracks and remixes of the original game soundtrack, alongside new songs of course. And which one is better will come down to personal preferences. But unfortunately, I can't say that the rest of the game is as strong.
As I said, the redesigns are hit or miss, and while I would say that as far as Yo-Yo goes, his is outright better in my opinion, but for everyone else it's either worse, or not that much better, or only slightly worse. At the same time though, I do prefer these villain designs, except for the captain, Goji, and the final boss. The rest are cool though.
And also, they interact more with the plot, and the game feels more like rival gangs fighting over turf until the evil businessman gets involved. And considering that this is basically just a retelling of the first game's plot, makes this an even bigger step up.
Whereas before you played as Beat joining the GGs and fighting rival gangs until a piece of record is discovered and it's revealed that it can summon a demon, and Goji Rokaku is going to use it to take over Tokyo so you have to put a stop to him, this time you play as Yo-Yo joining the GGs and Beat is just some guy you recruit early on. And the Rokaku group is a lot more present, with them being the ones who own the police force and who keep sending goons after you while you take on rival gangs. With those rival gangs being a lot more involved as well, like the mission where you have to compete in multiple races after getting captured by the noise tanks for example.
But at the same time, they added a feature that I wasn't that big on, which makes this a bit more annoying.
They removed the mission-based structure for chapters in an openish world, as there is your hub which connects to a handful of areas which connect to a few more each. And yeah, that's cool, it makes the world feel more fleshed out and detailed, but they don't give you as much direction as I had hoped, with a few chapters leaving me guessing as to where I had to go exactly.
And I remember the first time I played this, I never beat it because I took a break between gameplay sessions, so when I came back I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing.
And like, I'm not asking for a waypoint or anything, but just something like when you pause the game there could be a little bit of text saying this is the name of the area you need to go to, or just something small like that.
And something that isn't small are the new and changed mechanics.
While not new, I will start this by saying that there are a lot more areas that require doing tricks and combos to get to, and I love it. That's great, and I only wish there was more. But I do feel that there are more areas built for you to do cool tricks and combos in, so I have to say that this is an absolute step up. And add on that now you can do tricks makes this even better, as now when you press the X button, as soon as a move is done, you do another trick. And you can keep doing this for as long as you can get the timing right. And if you press the Y button with the same timing, you'll do a trick that turns you around, or just turns you around if you're skating. And since this applies to when you're in the air and when you're grinding, they decided to give you more incentive to do tricks, as before you'd get a higher ranking at the end of the mission, but since they removed the missions except for some post-game bonus missions, they added in objectives for you to do in each area, which includes doing a big enough combo, doing a certain amount of moves in a combo, doing a certain amount of specific tricks, and the last one based on the level you're in. And doing these unlocks a graffiti spirit for you to find and collect for new tags.
And speaking of tags, they changed 3 things with them.
The first is that there are another 2 size categories, super small and extra large, which, cool, more tags, sweet. However, they removed the inputs you need to do when tagging, so everything just requires requires you to hit the left trigger, then go, with the larger ones requiring you to do it multiple times. And I'm kinda disappointed in that change. With you needing to stop to spray, you had to think about the order you're going to do each tag in and which ones you're going to leave until last. If they all require the same amount of effort, then there's no reason to do them in any order other than the most efficient, which is usually not that hard to figure out. So I feel that old challenge from tagging is removed. Some of the challenge is replaced by some of them being in hard to get spots, but that's not really the point. It also makes it so there's no reason for the super small tags to exist because they act exactly the same as the small tags, so I don't know why they added them in like they did.
And the third change that I, again, have no idea why they did this, was that when you get a new character, you don't get their tags anymore.
Which kinda sucks because I like that since it gave me new tags, and also it showed a bit of their personality as you could see the type of tags that they like to put up. Which is why in the first game I played as Cube a lot, because since she unlocked tags that all featured skulls, I felt that even though yes I could use those tags with anyone, I should play as a character that likes skulls.
And I feel that I don't really have to explain why I feel a connection towards a character with an affinity for skulls.
Which, speaking of Cube, I was kind of annoyed because you meet her in the story and I thought that I was going to unlock her then and there like most of the other characters, but no. I hung around the area for a bit and nothing happened, so I left. Then later on I met a new character named Jazz that I thought was cool, and since she had a scarf, that meant I had to play as her, because in a game where there's a lot of movement, scarves are super rad. But then the plot happened and she disappeared, and it was only later that I found out that you had to go back to where they were and challenge them to unlock them. And for Cube, she doesn't appear right after the event with her, so I was left to assume the same would go for Jazz. But no, Jazz is there right away, and Cube appears where you would expect her to appear after her introduction, but only after seeing her in a cutscene in a completely different area.
So it's kind of annoying how missable they are and how the game does nothing to inform you that they are there.
And my final gripe is that there's more combat this time around. Before there were missions where you had to spray the backs of rival gang members and also to distract some enemies you could spray their backs, but this time they regularly lock you into a small area where you have to knock a couple of dudes down to spray their backs, with a few of them needing you to use a new move that's been added, the Boost, which uses 10 cans of spray paint, so I didn't use it much. But it makes you go a lot faster so you can knock over some dudes. But it doesn't have as much viability in the multiple boss fights. Like, there's a ton of boss fights. Some of them are cool, some of them not so much, and some more where it's a bit unclear if this counts as a boss fight. Although I would say that the final boss is not very good, as you're trapped in this weird dimension and there's a ton of dudes on the bottom floor that you can't beat, so you just need to avoid them, which is easy, and you need to platform up to the boss, which I will admit I did like, but since the newly added lock-on feature is mapped to the same button as recenter the camera, I was constantly locking onto enemies running towards me instead of looking forward, and the boss himself wasn't great either. You get to the top and I guess turbo knock him over twice and then spray his open stomach, but since I used all of my spray cans I had to jump off the ledge and take fall damage to get more paint before going back up to fight him. And since you take damage from falling and getting up is a bit tricky, I felt that this was not what you were supposed to do, but if not, then I have no idea what you are supposed to do.
Now don't get me wrong, Jet Set Radio Future is a fantastic game. As I said, I played through this game twice because I found out after beating it that it's backwards compatible with the 360. And while a little annoyed, I didn't really care because this is a great game. It's just that there's a lot of imperfections and things that I felt it could have done better, some of which the original game did that I have no idea why they removed it in this. Like New Game Plus. It would be great if this game had New Game Plus, but it doesn't. I don't know why. Like, it might be because they don't want you to be playing as a character when you're interacting with that character, because it might be a little bit weird, but at the same time it's New Game Plus, who cares? But at the end of the day, I do absolutely love this game. Jet Set Radio Original gets a 4 out of 4, and Jet Set Radio Future gets a 3 out of 4. These are fantastic games, and I do recommend them. And with that, I've been Horror Show, and this was VG Therapy.